All right, and we are back. Welcome in to another episode of Keeping Up with the New York Jets. Today is Thursday, August 1st. Happy August, everybody. That means it's football season. We've got the preseason game tonight, I believe, when this comes out. We've got the first full week of preseason games coming up next weekend. Today's show, we are just going through what has been hot and what has been not of training camp for the Jets through 1 week. Before I get to all of that, and before I bring Theodore in, make sure to follow us on our socials at KUWTNYJ. Teddy is at Teddy Huncho. I am at Spring Blake. If you are watching on YouTube, thank you so very much. Hit subscribe on there. Give us a like. Refresh it a few times so we get a few extra views on there. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple, give a 5-star review there. Theodore, how are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm ready to. I'm getting excited, and I'm still in this like little hell period we've been talking about every week of just wanting the games to start, but actually getting a full week of practice in and just getting all the clips, watching all the plays that come out throughout the day. It's been fun, It's a fun time of year. You just get excited about all your guys. You hype everyone up. So yeah, feeling it.
Yeah. Yep. And then for today specifically, I thought it'd be a fun way to kind of just go through, because not everything's going to be positive. There's some things that haven't been great through training camp in week 1. So I thought it'd be fun to go a game of what's hot and what's not through training camp. Something great, something negative, something great. So that way we're not just harping on the bad. We're not just praising all the good. We've got a clear sense of what's been going on in week 1 of training camp. So let's start off with what's hot. Our prayers were answered. Last episode, we joked about Andrew Peasley being the only quarterback that we'd probably want to see out there on the field during preseason games. The Jets then signed quarterbacks Ben Bryant the next day after the show came out, signed Adrian Martinez a few days later. We also joked on the show, or I joked specifically, about how I wanted to get some fresh blood in there in the tight end / fullback room. I was just getting a little bored talking about the same guys for 3 years. And then the Jets went and signed former Titans tight end Anthony Firkser. And so a new name in the fold. Anything about those guys in Theodore? Adrian Martinez, Anthony Firkser?
Yeah. I'll start with the quarterbacks. I mean, literally right as we released the episode, they signed Ben Bryant. Which, all of these moves, these 2 moves together with Ben Bryant and Adrian Martinez. Last week we talked about it seems like they're gonna just have to play Tyrod in the preseason. Maybe that's not the case anymore. Which is fine. I'm not really worried about how they look at the preseason. Yeah. And it also came out that Aaron Rodgers, Robert Saleh said he wasn't going to play in any preseason games, which is not surprising. But then Aaron Rodgers comes out and he's like, well, I didn't know that, but hey, that's fine. And it's like, duh, dude. What do you think? But yeah, I want to talk about Adrian Martinez. I mean, I'm a UFL guy. I love watching the UFL all season. He's the 2024 MVP. He was the quarterback on the best team with the Stallions. I bet on them every game, and throughout the season, their spreads are going from -7 to -10 to -14 to -20, and I was just betting on them all the time. They were pretty electric all year. So yeah, that's good for him. I mean, it doesn't seem like he has a real starting opportunity or anything like that, but I'm happy that he's getting on an NFL roster. Even if he is just a can't buy, Yeah. So that's, I'm excited for that regard. Anthony Firkser, he's a guy.
He is a guy.
Titans, been an NFL player before.
Yep.
So I mean, cool. You said you wanted some fresh blood. Here we go.
There it is. Yeah, I think it's just funny, every coaching staff does it when you bring in new people, or with wherever the coordinators have been previously. We've joked about the kind of Titans overhaul on the offensive coaching staff, and a few players that have been brought in as well too. Firkser was with the Titans during that tenure as well too. So yeah, I think those are just quick transactional notes. And then on the what's not, the flip side, had to say goodbye to a few dudes. Ben Bryant was released the day after he was signed, so it officially is like Andrew Peasley. So it's officially Peasley and Adrian Martinez are kind of going to be your preseason quarterbacks, with probably a little bit of Tyrod, if we're being honest. And then Nick Bawden, fullback / tight end, he was released as part of the Firkser move too. So that's a guy that's kind of been around, hasn't really been doing much. Not that you expect much out of your designated fullback and tight end 4, but no longer with the organization.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. I said he's probably not getting cut. Here he is, cut. So that's good. But yeah, has been the fullback. I mean, I guess Ferkser probably has that skill set along with some other guys on the team. But I do think he's a watch candidate to see if we pick him back up. We cut him at least once last year.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yep. Next, what's hot? A dude is back. Elijah Vera Tucker returned to team drills recently. 2 season-ending injuries back-to-back years. It's good to see him out there. Good to see him cleared to go. Put bubble wrap on him. I want him to be healthy. We need him on the field if we want the best starting 5 possible for the New York Jets. So glad to see he's making some progress there. And then what's not? Some dudes are not back. Morgan Moses still hasn't returned to team drills yet, which would essentially be the final missing piece of the starting offensive line. Side note, while we're talking about it, Olufashanu is only taking reps at left tackle, which is part of the development plan for him. I get it. I would have liked to have seen, just try it out. Maybe he's great at both ends. You can be the future franchise left tackle while also being a good right tackle. There's, both can happen at the same time. But regardless, he'll still be relied on at some point this season. So Morgan Moses, it's not like he's delayed in his injury rehab, but it's just taken a little bit more time. Other injury news, Xavier Gibson expected to miss a few weeks with a leg injury. Unfortunate news there for a wide receiver that you would say is not at the top of the depth chart, not at the bottom, still probably has a pretty safe spot there, but on the roster, but out for a couple weeks with a leg injury. And then the third, some dudes are not back. Hassan Reddick yet to return. We've talked about him at length this offseason. There were reports this weekend. I think Josina Anderson was really the one at the forefront of this, talking about how there were positive steps. They're making steps in the right direction over the weekend. He has now forfeited, I believe, around $800,000 because on Monday's official first padded practice, there was an additional $300,000 fine that was assessed. And money's adding up. It's still $50K every day. And
for sure.
Definitely something that he probably won't want to keep doing for a while.
Yeah, interesting note about that $300,000 fine is that it's a voluntary fine. Like for the team, they can either choose to enforce it or choose to not. Unlike the $50,000 practices, obviously the Jets went ahead and enforced it, which just he's almost up to $1 million already.
Jesus.
Definitely since we last talked, I think last week our conversation was very much based on it doesn't seem like anything has really happened, anything positive. Where this week, it does seem like, there was some things in the right direction. The two sides have come together and at least had conversations. But yeah, still not showing up. A lot of people thought Monday. He's not showing up on Monday. So yeah, that kind of sucks. I mean, the stuff over the weekend really did kind of make it feel like he would be there, sooner rather than later. By not showing up Monday, it kind of puts me back in that, I really have no idea what's going to happen. But it does seem like we're getting closer and closer to that actual final deal where he does just end up showing up, and they reach some type of compromise.
Yep, I agree. I think before the training camp started, or right when it started, I said 10 days, I think that bank account is going to start feeling a little bit of hurt for him. So, again, a long stalemate. They'll figure it out. There's no reason that we shouldn't expect him to be out there week 1. It's just part of the NFL these days. You've got it across all different camps. Every team and player has different approaches to it. At the end of the day, I mean, there's only been one case in my recent memory where a guy has actually stood his ground and held out an entire season, and then he signed a fat contract with the Jets. So that's definitely funny. But anything else with the Elijah Vera Tucker being back, Morgan Moses and Gibson being hurt? Any quick thoughts on those?
No, I mean, with Moses, once he's back, that'll be awesome to have all 5. We've talked about the importance of that. With Gibson, I just, again, I haven't been in love with the idea of Gibson as a receiver necessarily. I think he's fine, but nothing special. Yeah. But it does, the receiver room, while solid at the top, does feel to me a bit bare in some ways. Not anything drastic, but I do wish we had a couple more just solid guys. Him being injured, kind of not ideal, I'll say. We don't have to talk about this a ton. There's been a lot of rumors about this huge blockbuster trade that's going down. I'd say there's about a 1% chance that it's the Jets and Devontae Adams. A lot of people have been tweeting about this like monster deal in the NFL. I think some like random Twitter account tweeted it, but that random Twitter account has tweeted similar stuff before that happened, which it could just be he's throwing darts, you know? But I've seen a lot of like, literally the only rumor is a major trade in the NFL is about to happen. Probably not Devontae Adams to the Jets, but what if it was?
That would be interesting.
Yeah, we've talked about that, you know, and there's obviously the pros and cons, but I just wanted to fit that in because I think it's funny that it's just like a rumor that was basically made up out of nothing.
Weird. Well, keep our eyes on that.
Yeah.
That would be fun. So that's the quick transactional stuff. I think what I want to get into now is really the bigger stories of camp. So we'll start with the what's hot. Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. And I've got a literally and literally two different things that we'll talk about with this one. Literally part one. Two separate occasions were seen throughout practices on 2 different days where Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers were having heated conversations. It didn't look like they were fighting necessarily, but you could tell they were animated and they were arguing the ins and outs. And, you know, they were asked about it yesterday or today, I believe. And here are the 2 quotes from the players. Garrett Wilson said, whenever we're out there having those conversations and getting the way we are, we're getting better. We're gaining an understanding of each other and the way to go about things, the way that we think and interpret the game. It's truly enlightening for me every time we have those convos like that, despite how it might look. Aaron Rodgers. I love those conversations. It's about the details. It's about winning. It's about seeing what he sees. He's got to get on my page, but I've got to get on his page too, because he's got a whole book that I need to understand fully of skill set and ability and feel and rhythm and all the different things that he does out there. So those are good conversations. So literally part one, they are passionate about the game. They are 2 of the best players at their respective positions, and they're just ironing out the fine details of how can we be the best version of ourselves. So yeah. Did you have any thoughts before the comments over like what this could have been, or were you
not at all?
These are people having conversations.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's 2 guys in the middle of football practice, you know, like doing what people in football practice do, which sometimes that gets animated and heated. But I mean, both clips ended with like dap ups and smiles and laughs and whatever. This is one of those like stories where my first reaction is to be like, how are people making such a big deal out of this? But like, I don't think anyone actually is really. Like, they just asked the question,
talking about
the answer, and they got interesting sound bites out of it. Yeah. But like, I don't think anyone actually was like, look at all this, you know, all these problems the Jets are having. So yeah, I mean, it's good to see it. What I liked, my biggest takeaway was like in Garrett Wilson's quotes about it. You know, he's referencing last year, and he's saying, you know, last year, a lot of our conversations were a lot more positive. We were feeling each other out. We didn't know each other as well, you know, so we were mostly just kind of hyping each other up. Like, obviously, there are those ticky-tack things that you're talking about, but he said that the conversations were less built on, like, constructive criticism as opposed to this year where they're really both kind of tweaking each other and letting each other know what they're seeing, what they're doing, and really, like, trying to come to some common ground of what's the best way we can do this to win. So yeah, I mean, this past week, I couldn't be more excited about these 2 guys and their connection in the season. You know, we just got to see it happen and see it actually play out. But there's no reason these 2 shouldn't just have absolutely huge year.
Yeah, that's my literally part 2. They have both been unbelievable in camp yet again. I know, you know, everybody was really excited last offseason. It's like, oh, we're doing the same thing again. But that was injuries aside. That you know, they are, if they're both on the field for a full season, we've said this countless times, they'll be one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in football. And I said that without doing the like combos of like, okay, who are the best quarterback wide receiver duos? There's Burrow and Jamar Chase. I'm not like Mahomes and Kelsey, but that's a tight end, and Kelsey's not Kelsey of like 2 years ago. Exactly. If you go through it, you know, CD and Dak,
Tua and, you know, Tyreek. Like even that's
I would take Rodgers and G-Dub. So it's like I put that out there without saying it, but I think I'm just reaffirming myself. Maybe you could Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp / Puka. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely top 5. It might be even better than that. I think 3 more touchdowns in Wednesday's practice today.
I think Rodgers threw for 6 touchdowns in red zone, 3 to Garrett Wilson, 3 to another guy we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, things are looking. I mean, they've had one kind of off day in practice so far where the reports weren't super positive, but bounced back today and really seemed like they put it all together. Obviously, it's just practice. We'd rather have the positive reports than the.
Yep. Yeah, and that's actually exactly where I was going to be going. I put this on a different one, so I'm going to bump it up here so now we can all watch it or on the dock together. What's not? Joe Tippmann and the Jets offense stumbles when the pads come on. This was a talking point primarily Tuesday or Monday and Tuesday if you're listening. On Thursday when we're coming out with this. Pads came on and the offense put up a stinker practice. More specifically, Joe Tippmann had been struggling with snaps. Rodgers was getting very furious with the offensive line. Basically, everybody was off offensively for a whole entire practice. And I remember this same thing happening a year ago. And if you look across any camp, that's just what happens when the pads come on.
Sure.
That's, if the pads come on, that benefits the defense. Because the defense is all kind of being reactionary. They're not initiating anything. When you have all of a sudden the center initiating the snap, the quarterback initiating the throw, you've got that added weight on you with pads after you've been spending months without pads on. It takes a little while to get an adjustment to things. So the report out of camp was that Tippmann was having a tough day. The offense put up a clunker. Like you said, they came and rebounded on Wednesday's practice in a big way and had a great performance today. But that was something that had been going on in camp. A little overblown to me, but something of note.
I think the thing to, look for is do days like this stack up? Are we all of a sudden getting multiple days where Joe Tippmann misses Aaron Rodgers multiple times on shotgun snaps or things like that? At this point, we've had a lot of positive and then a big negative day and then another positive day. Nothing to really worry about. I assume I was trying to look this up. Kind of a hard thing for me to look up. Tippmann, what did he mostly play last year? Center or guard?
Center.
I know I should know this. It was center, right? That's what I thought. So, it's not like we don't trust the guy. It's not like we don't think that the guy can snap shotgun. So, to me, nothing truly to worry about, unless, obviously, he sees things stacking.
Yep, exactly. Let me ask you, though, is that a true is that true for football? Like, you would agree that putting pads on might be just a tougher adjustment for the offense?
Yeah, your first padded practice is definitely different. And it, you're used to being able to have your full range of motion with your shoulders. So, who knows? Right. All those things could be. There definitely are those aspects, like when camp starts, the defense is usually a lot better than the offense. And then the offense kind of catches up throughout the training camp. Those things are definitely true to some extent. But that's just because, the offense has more kind of fine tuning to do before they really catch their stride.
Right. Yep. Okay, good. So let's flip back over to what's hot. Qwan'tez Stiggers.
I'm getting hyped about this.
Future Jets cornerback 2. Super impressive all week. Good mix of pass breakups, picks, sticky on coverage, great hands, ball hawking skills. We talked about it a little bit last week. We talked about it with storylines of what we're looking forward to is what is the future wave of defensive backs here for the New York Jets? Again, it's camp. Every which way a story could change in a week, and all of a sudden it's, he's had a bad few practices. But from what we've seen thus far, a really nice piece in the secondary, depth for this year, security at a potential future spot moving on. Give me your thoughts, Teddy. As a former DB, what do you love about Qwan'tez Stiggers?
No, this is awesome. This, number one, we've talked about it every time this guy's brought up, but just amazing story, guy you want to root for. Just good to see him kind of really come into his own. 5th round draft pick, not someone you expect to break on the scene right away. And he's done nothing but show out, through the first week. I'll skip ahead to our next what's not, which is Michael Carter II getting injured today, limping off the field. The tweet I saw basically happened as he got injured, but it was like Michael Carter hurts his ankle, limps off field, like does not look good. And so I immediately was just like, he's done for the season. Fuck, like just off one tweet.
Yeah.
But with that, having a guy like Stiggers who's really just been showing out right away, and is he necessarily going to be the corner guy? Would they have to move some stuff around? Or the nickel guy, excuse me. Would they have to move some stuff around? Like, I don't really know. But the fact that he's another cornerback that we seem to be pretty solid and can hopefully be confident in come game days, I mean, that's awesome. And obviously, hopefully Michael Carter's not banged up too bad.
Yeah. Yep, definitely on Michael Carter. I agree. He's a pivotal part to this defense. When you have one of the best slot corners in football, that's a huge advantage to the rest of your defense. Makes life a lot easier for your outside guys, your linebackers, all that. With Stiggers, this is just these are those things that you need to pick up on when you have a team that is talented at many different positions, and you have to pay a lot of them, and you can't afford to pay all of them. It's finding these guys in the rough. It's finding a 5th-round pick at corner. It's, hopefully how they found a Bryce Huff at one point as well, too. You have to just get one guy every once in a while where you're like, okay, now we can afford to maybe one day lose a cornerback because we found this guy in the 5th round. It's just always nice of GMs to... Because look, looking into this season, 2024, there was not a need at cornerback. But good teams and good general managers look ahead and say, okay, well, where can we try and save ourselves from having holes in seasons beyond? And we talk about DJ Reed and the money he will get next offseason. If you can supplant that with Qwan'tez Stiggers or somebody else on this depth chart, it saves you having to overpay somebody in free agency that might not be as good, or invest a high round draft pick in a guy. You can do those things, but it's nice if you don't have to. So again, 1 week of practice, but when you're getting performances like that out of a player, it deserves to get picked up on. So Qwan'tez Stigger, great start to your training camp NFL career. So that's a what's hot and what's not. Let's go. I've got one more.
Well, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just on Michael Carter, Robert Saleh did come out, say he doesn't think it's serious.
Yeah.
That's a positive. But I do, when Robert Saleh says stuff about injuries, I just like to think the opposite's going to happen.
Hey, when Robert Saleh says anything, I like to think the opposite is happening.
Yeah. So hopefully it's not serious, but this could be, whatever. Let's hope it's not serious.
He'll be fine. Yeah, it seems like everybody thinks it'll be easy. It's dealing with an ankle. I don't know if we specifically said that, but it is an ankle injury. What's hot? Gadget piece. Go Gadget. Malachi Corley has been seen through the first week of camp taking snaps at halfback, being used on end arounds, making the most of his expanded role in camp with Gibson out. Only makes sense, if Malachi Corley, if you were doing, what was the biggest pro and con about him coming out of the draft, the biggest pro was if he got the football in his hands, he is dangerous with it after the catch or on, those run routes or those run snaps. And his biggest weakness was route running. It was a work in progress. He doesn't have a full route tree. His timing, his footwork isn't that great. So what is the best way to get a player the ball without needing to complicate things in the route tree? End arounds, direct snaps at halfback, and they have been experimenting with it, and it's gone well. I do want to say, I don't think he had three. What I saw, I think he had a touchdown today. I think I saw Breece Hall had 2, and he had 1, unless you've got something that says different. But he did have a score today, and has been, used as a creative piece to this offense. So that's exciting to see.
Yeah, last week I talked about, just being excited to see like what their plan with him was, and to see them immediately, putting him in at halfback, doing the end arounds, doing the trick plays. Like, I love that, to be a compliment to actually being an effective wide receiver as well. Alan Lazard was also out of practice today. I don't think anything serious. But so Corley really got to step up and just get a lot of reps with the ones. And I mean, he didn't disappoint. It seems like his, relationship with Rodgers is coming along well. It seems like they kind of have a groove and have been able to kind of connect throughout camp. So I'm super excited about this. I mean, you think about right? Like Braxton Berrios was a guy who was like our fourth or fifth wide receiver, but over the past couple of years, we tried to just get him the ball in his hands, and he was a pretty good player. He was fast, but it wasn't anything crazy. To me, Malachi Corley, is just a step up from that. It's a more dependable wide receiver that you're also trying to give those same plays to and just manufacture touches. With a guy like Garrett Wilson, with hopefully a healthy Mike Williams, with an Allen Lazard, guys who can handle other responsibilities that you need from your wide receivers, just to have this little guy, Corley, who can just really be doing it all and just, being a decoy, not being a decoy, like all these great things. I'm amped for this guy. I wore my Garrett Wilson 17 jersey specifically to give a little bit love to our new number 17, Malachi Corley. I'm a sucker for rookie wide receivers. I really am. Like, if you're a rookie wide receiver drafted to the Jets, you're going to be one of my favorite players.
Is there a round where it would stop if he's like a 6th rounder? Are you like...
Yeah, I mean, that obviously changes it, but like anything in what was Corley?
Third.
A third, right? So, I mean, even that's like right on the edge, but because he has that like pedigree and you think he's going to be getting a lot of playing time, I mean, I'm amped for sure. So yeah, Malachi Corley. I might buy a jersey today.
You might. Hey, why don't you just put tape over on the back and just write Corley? I think that's the safest way to do things. Yeah.
I can't believe I did this with the whole Wilson number thing. But we won't talk.
He told you, right? He told you.
He had already announced it.
Yeah.
And then I just bought his jersey as last season's.
That's crazy. I saw recently a lot of people had bought like Malik Neighbor's jersey, and he has like throughout camp been like, yeah, I'm not wearing 9. I don't like 9. People think it's cool. Yeah, and it's just like he's waiting for other people to get cut off the team so he can take a different jersey.
It's so funny. I'm surprised that they allow him because he probably gets a lot of jersey sales.
Oh yeah, definitely. With Malachi, I guess my last piece is just if you have a player that you are trying to get to buy in, and I'm not saying that he has to, feel important in this offense, but it's super helpful to be able to give, it's super important to be able to give him opportunities to make the most of his abilities. Yes, we don't think you're ready to be a route runner in the slot that's dicing guys up like a Cooper Kupp, and your route running and your footwork needs improvements, but we know you are great here. So we're going to try and give you the opportunity here to where you can get the ball in your hands, and as you become a more prolific route runner, it will only open up the opportunities for you. So I'm very happy to see that with Malachi Corley. My last what's not, Will McDonald was talking with media today, and it was emphasized by both him and Robert Saleh that he was, quote, stronger while still weighing the same 235 pounds, which can be very true. Will McDonald said that he was feeling slower last season, that he had put on too much weight, and it was impacting his ability to get off the line of scrimmage, so-and-so. I said last week, I've always said with Will McDonald, I don't love my edge rushers to be 235 pounds in the NFL. I thought that coming out of the draft, he benefited from playing in a league of football, the Big 12 at that time, that had no real strong offensive linemen, and a lot of his numbers were being able to beat up on smaller sized tackles. And his transition to the pros has been slow, and that's fine. But what do you think about his quotes and his abilities where they stand right now?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, for me, we've talked about Will McDonald a ton. I've always been more on the positive side. To me, it's really just going to come down to, how he looks on the field once we get there. I do, if you were asking me, do I think Will McDonald can be our starting edge? Like, no, he's not gonna be able to be a 3-down guy there, but hopefully that's not what he needs to do on this team. I do think there's something to guys who try to put on weight or lose weight and then kind of lose like what makes them them.
Definitely.
And if he can really have those fast twitch muscles and just beat guys off the edge, I mean, then go for it. It'll all come down to how he actually plays on the field. But it is just another reminder of how badly, I want this Hassan Reddick deal to just get done so we can have him there, feel good about where we are with our edges. Because, having Will McDonald as an auxiliary piece then kind of allows him to not fit that normal mold of, not weighing as much and not being as big. Where when it's a guy that you're hoping can compete for a starting position, it's like, this isn't really going to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the thing that interests me the most is like Reddick was thought to be chasing the pass rush stats and maybe not giving it his all in these run defense snaps. So I'm going to be interested to see what the rotation looks like, because if Jermaine is going to be your 3-down guy or close to it, and then you've got Hassan Reddick, who is supposed to just pin his ears back and get to the quarterback, and then you have Will McDonald, who's supposed to pin his ears back and get to the quarterback, who's going to be that opposite edge. Like, they've been putting Michael Clemens out there. Cool. It hadn't really worked last year when they tried, so that'll be interesting to see. Was there?
Yeah, I do wonder. Are there? Because that's the biggest question, right? Like, who are these other guys?
Tack McKinley.
Right. Yeah. Like Tack McKinley's been kind of getting a little hyped up. There's Eric Watts. A couple other just like random names.
Yeah.
Is it a thing where they're like utilizing someone like a Kinlaw or a Thomas to like play an edge position on an early down? Like, that would be weird, but it's like that's kind of what they did with JFM, where they just had a defensive tackle who was also playing edge. Like it'll just be interesting to see what that actual plan is.
Right.
I would assume Hassan Reddick's going to be the de facto starter out there for most of the plays, but obviously there's going to be some run plays where they're early down plays where they're taking him out for other guys. So we'll see. I mean, maybe it is just Michael Clemens and we just have to hope he can step up a little bit from what he's performed. But yeah, the depth at our entire offensive line and especially edge is definitely something that isn't great. And I think the Jets kind of have an overinflated, overrated defensive line at the moment. Which I think 90% of that is just how electric our secondary's been. It's provided this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely not like a position group I feel completely great about depth-wise.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. Teddy, I have one more, and it's a what's hot / what's not, because it was something that I watched last night or this morning, I believe, and it was a quick 10 seconds on a show, but the Jets did try to come up to the 5th or 6th overall pick to trade with the New York Giants on draft night. The thing that pissed me off the most is you got some insight onto what offers the Giants were throwing out in trades, but they really didn't shine too much of a light on what the Jets were trying to move up for, what they were offering. But just interesting. I would have assumed it was going to be either Malik Neighbors or Rome Odunze. Which, I'm interested to know one day how many times Joe Douglas tried calling, to pick 7 and 8 before he went 9 to the Bears. But just interesting to note that they definitely were trying to get a wide receiver with the 6th overall pick.
Didn't you talk about this last week with one of the
They put it on the trailer. They put it on the trailer as a teaser for the final episode, and then I was like, oh, we'll get a lot more insight, and then it was literally just what they had put in the trailer.
Yeah, because where did Neighbors get picked?
6th. Yeah, to the Giants.
Right. Oh, yeah. So like I kind of feel like I had heard that like either from you or elsewhere that that's what they were doing, and it was really no secret they were trying to trade up to get one of those wide receivers. Not surprising. I mean, I would have loved if they did. Obviously, same take I had on draft night.
Yeah. Let me tell you, Malik Neighbors and Garrett Wilson on the same offense
would be something.
Explosives, pew pew pew. Holy shit, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Anything else from training camp, Theodore? We're on the shorter side, but also we've talked about trying to keep these.
No, I think that was awesome. Quick little training camp notes. This is what we're here for, to just keep our eyes on this stuff as it comes. First preseason game will be the day we release next week, maybe 2 days after if we record a little early next week. Oh, is it August 10th? It's not on Thursday?
Yeah. No. The Jets' first preseason game?
No, the Hall of Fame game.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That's not this Thursday, is it? I think it might be.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, once we're back, we will have a we'll have some NFL football that we've watched. That'll be fun.
Today, when this comes out, there will be a football game on every Thursday night until week 17 of the regular season. So there you have it. There'll be Thursday night football.
The Hall of Fame today.
When this show comes out, not today when we're recording it. Yeah.
Man, that really snuck up on me.
I know.
But here we go.
Do you really? Are you really? You're not gonna watch it though, right?
No, but it's a checkpoint.
Yeah.
It's like the first day of training camp.
Yeah.
What sucks about the Hall of Fame game is they do a whole game, and then you have to wait a week and a half until week 1 of preseason starts. It's like, why wouldn't whatever? But yeah,
it needs its own shine.
It'll be cool.
Yeah,
Dwight
Tyson,
Q Scott, Devin Hester, Drew Johnson, Julius Peppers.
You know what that makes me realize? We're getting fucking old. Those are guys that
sorta.
Oh, we are. Those are guys that Dwight Freeney. I watched a ton as the Colts. Devin Hester, we watched a bunch as well. Like those are all guys that Andre Johnson, dude. He was a baller. Yeah, it's just we're hitting that point where guys like a few years back, you could get Hall of Fame guys that I didn't necessarily watch, and I was a little bit of a late bloomer to football, but
sure.
That you can blame my father for not really getting into it until I did. But anyways,
just blame the.
Yeah, exactly. That is all for today. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching another episode of Keeping Up with the New York Jets. Follow the socials at KUWTNYJ. Like, subscribe wherever you can. Follow Teddy at Teddy Huncho. I am at Spring Blake. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll talk to you next week. Peace.